When it comes to Lehigh Valley history, November 18th is a day that will live in infamy, but will be remembered with pride. 25 years ago today, the iconic Bethlehem Steel plant made its final cast of iron after more than 120 years of operation. Kristi Fulkerson caught up with 3 former steel workers turned volunteers at the National Museum of Industrial History to reminisce on their memories and the plant's place in history.
It's a widely recognized feature of the Bethlehem skyline, 5 blast furnaces that once operated as part of Bethlehem Steel, a towering reminder of the city's place in industrial history, now silent for 25 years.
It's sad, but it's also important that this is your roots. People should know their roots, or try to know them. And this is an integral part of this community and Northampton County. Before computers, this is what it was like. You worked in a shop, you built things, you made things, you worked with your hands, and it was very dangerous.
Eric Quimby worked in the iron foundry and No. 2 machine shop, fulfilling many wartime defense contracts before being laid off in 1988, while John Mikovits was an electrician and took care of the plant's locomotives for 15 years.
For me, it wasn't a job. I was a railroad buff, and I'm still a railroad buff. So when I got hired on the railroad, it was like, you want me to work on the locomotives? I tell my friends, you play with your Lionel, you play with your HL, I've got the full scale. I've got the real McCoy here. So for me, I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
The site along the Lehigh River first opened in 1863 as part of the Bethlehem Iron Company, by 1904 officially operating as the Bethlehem Steel Corporation. Over the next decade, it became the nation's second largest steel manufacturer, and by the 50s produced 23 million tons of steel per year.
A Liberty ship that was built at the Bethlehem Steel Baltimore yards, that goes out for tours. That's Bethlehem Steel. Take a tour of the Chrysler building. That's Bethlehem Steel. Go across the Golden Gate. There at the Lincoln, I think it's the Lincoln Tunnel. It's all over. It's just amazing.
I consider myself lucky that I worked in this iconic plant. Just the idea of what this plant meant, not only to the town, but to the country, on everything that Bethlehem Steel built. I feel honored now. Yeah, you know, at the time, of course, when it shut down, you have to get a new job. But now I look back at it and I consider myself, how lucky was I to be a part of this?
For 120 years, the Bethlehem plant was active, employing up to 33,000 at its height. The 200-plus foot tall blast furnaces producing up to 3,000 tons of iron per day, up until the final firing on November 18, 1995, known as the last cast.
When you take metal out of the blast furnace, it's called casting the furnace. So the cast is the metal coming out. So the last cast is opening up that blast furnace with a great big drill. The metal rushes out, slag follows. It's collected in cars. The metal iron runs into what we call a submarine car or a bottle car for transport to the steelmaking shop. The slag runs into what we call cinder pots, which are big pots on a railroad car.
Don Young spent 56 years working for Bethlehem Steel, rising to general foreman of the specialty melt shop, and was the self-proclaimed plant historian, recalling this day in 1995 when Furnace 3 emptied for the last time and the steelmaking process ceased in Bethlehem.
The place was crowded, far crowded than the safety officer would have wanted it on a blast furnace cast floor, because the guys all throughout the plant, even though they knew this last day was coming, they marched to it with their heads held high, and everybody did their job and made sure the place ran to the last day and shut down without incident. There were people crying, there were many people sad, but nobody, to my knowledge, was doing anything to throw a monkey wrench in the process, which I think is a very good compliment to the workforce here.
The 25th anniversary is obviously a pretty big milestone for an event that changed this town forever. You know, the town was really built up after the Moravians industrially because of Bethlehem Steel, and a lot of the fabric of the community and the way that it's built today is still because of that company.
So much much has been done to preserve the rich history of Bethlehem Steel here on the south side of Bethlehem, including this expanded area at the museum where you can enjoy a hands-on experience, actually operate and ride on this original 1941 Whitcomb locomotive that was used originally to transport scrap metal to and from the electric furnace shop.
You can go and look at something, you can look at the steel stacks, but unless you have some knowledge of how it worked or what it did, it's kind of lost on you what these artifacts or machines or whatever were doing. So to be able to hop inside that cab, take the controls and actually run a piece of machinery that was integral to what happened here at the plant, is not only it's fun, but again, it's going to introduce new generations to what happened here and why what was done here was so important.
This is awesome. This is awesome. All this could have been bulldozed down. This could have been another mall, could have been condos, could have been warehouses and everything else. And here it is. It's a virtual history tour. It's been 25 years since the plant shut down. And there's an entire generation that's grown up that has not seen this, of not be driving on 3rd Street and seeing the blue flame coming out, the excess gas being burned off the blast furnaces, or when they would dump the slag on the east end of the plant, seeing that guy get nice bright red. So to see this as it is today, I think it's awesome. Hopefully some more of these buildings be preserved, for the memory of all the thousands and thousands of workers that worked here.
On the scene at the former home to Bethlehem Steel, I'm Kristi Fulkerson for the Service Electric Network.